In this instructional video, we introduce visual strategy mapping, based on the book Visual Strategy by John Bryson, Fran Akerman, and Colin Eden. Visual strategy mapping is a causal mapping process. A causal map links statements and arrows indicating how one statement leads to another. By using a few simple but important rules for formulating statements and creating links, causal maps may help to reveal relevant goals, strategies, and actions, and the links between them, showing what leads to or causes what. The maps then help focus dialogue and deliberation on which among the possibilities actually should be chosen. The more deeply mappers engage, the more the maps act as a powerful vehicle for negotiating agreements that are owned by the whole group. Depending upon the situation, these maps may include anywhere from 24 to hundreds of statements and arrows linking them. Maps, when completed, have the same logic structure as a strategic plan. Maps show visually how a group or organization's mission may be advanced by achieving goals through pursuing strategies that consist of portfolios and complementary actions. Let's see how visual strategy mapping works in practice. The remainder of this video walks you through a real example in which visual strategy mapping was used to develop a strategic plan for reducing traffic deaths in a region of Minnesota. According to the United States Department of Transportation, one person dies every 16 minutes in a traffic crash in the United States. Over the course of a lifetime, nearly every U.S. resident is touched by the consequences of traffic crashes. 0 deaths on the highway is what the U.S. Department of Transportation would like to achieve, and they developed an initiative to move toward that goal. The initiative is called Toward 0 Deaths. The Minnesota version of the Toward 0 Deaths initiative was begun by the Minnesota Department of Transportation, Department of Public Safety, and the Minnesota Department of Public Health. The initiative's mission is to raise awareness of traffic safety issues and to develop tools that can be used to reduce the number of deaths and injuries resulting from traffic accidents. Because every Minnesota community is unique, the Towards 0 Deaths program assists local organizations in developing effective solutions that are tailored to their community's traffic problems and resources. Additionally, the program takes a system-wide approach to reducing traffic accidents and implements new tools and technologies based on problems that appear in the system as a whole. The development of what is called the TZD initiative in Minnesota stemmed from a model known as the 4 E's. The model includes 4 major focus areas to reduce traffic injuries and fatalities: education, enforcement, engineering, emergency trauma care. In the past, few coordinated linkages existed between the various agencies working in these 4 areas. In the simulated mapping workshop that follows, you will see a group of local community stakeholders work on developing a comprehensive strategy moving towards 0 deaths that includes the 4 E's. The group wants to prepare a proposal for consideration for funding by the Minnesota Department of Transportation, which is very supportive of helping communities move towards 0 deaths.
In this first phase, participants are asked to brainstorm possible issues and actions for moving toward 0 deaths. The ideas will be clustered into groups held together by a common theme or subject matter. Note that participants will be learning how to do mapping while doing it. As a facilitator, I will be providing helpful guidance and answering questions for participants about how to proceed. As part of this process, I will be introducing the session ground rules.
Well, thank you all for being here. I'm glad you could participate in today's mapping session, where we're going to be coming up with a strategy map to go into a proposal to help move this part of the state towards 0 deaths. Let me just remind you that it'd be great, it's good for you to follow the ground rules, and they are: just say what you think. We want to know what you think as an individual. Record your ideas on the sticky notes that you've been given with the marking pen that you have. Use 6 to 8 words for each statement. If you use fewer than 6 words, the statement may not have enough meaning for your colleagues. If you have more than 8 words, there's likely to be more than 2 ideas on the statement. We want 1 idea per statement. Make your statement in actions. Start it with a verb: get, buy, create, facilitate, drive. Write legibly and large enough so that others can read the statements from where they're sitting. And if you disagree with a statement, write an alternative statement, and we'll deal with the disagreements if we have to later on. Okay, let's get started. The question I'd like you to address is what issues do we have to address in order to move towards 0 deaths on our roads?
Participants start writing their ideas as actions on sticky notes, a separate sticky note for each idea. The facilitator starts placing them on the wall by theme and also numbers each statement to help with navigation. Each statement on a sticky note should contain only one idea or action. The facilitator will work with the group to unbundle a statement that actually contains more than one action.
So you'll notice that I've started to sort the statements into what will become clusters of ideas held together by a common theme or subject matter. You'll notice that I've also started to number the statements. We'll use those numbers to help us navigate around the map as it gets bigger and we get more statements on it. Okay, just a reminder, 6 to 8 words. Fewer than 6, you're likely to have not quite enough meaning. More than 8 words, you're likely to have more than one idea on the statement. And also be sure to write big enough and legible enough so your colleagues can read the statements from a distance.
Remember, we would prefer to have statements that are action-oriented. This usually means starting each statement with a verb. If the statement has more than one action in it, we'll want to break up the statement and have each action start with its own verb.
Okay, remember we want only one statement per sticky note, so we may have to revisit some statements to make sure that's the case. So look at 1 where we say increase in number of cars on road leads to increased gridlock. The leads to is actually an arrow linking the first and last parts of that statement. So would someone please write a new number 1 that says increase in number of cars on road?
I can do that.
And would someone write one that says, a statement 5, that says decrease in gridlock, which is what we actually want to have?
Yes, I can do that.
Great. Okay, good. Okay, let's look at statement 10, resources for early response. We'd like that to be an action, so what's the verb that might go with that?
Well, I wrote that, and what I was really meaning was that we need more sharing of resources for early response.
Okay, share. So share resources for early response. Okay.
Is it okay to say vehicle wear and tear?
Well, it'd be best if you started that with a verb, so how about decrease vehicle wear and tear? And make that statement 12. Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, let's look at 13. 13 also has more than one idea in it. Do necessary research to gather baseline data by age, sex, job, and others, and identify metrics for success. Amanda, would you write a new sticky note that says, do necessary research, and number it 13?
Yes.
And Chuck, would you do a number 14 that says, gather baseline data by age, sex, job, and others?
Yes.
And then Mallory, would you do a number 15 that says, identify metrics for success?
Will do. So how about we say something like increasing sidewalks?
That's good. I like that.
Well, that's great, but remember, an idea without a sticky note is no idea at all. Right. That statement, I think you got the statement right. It's 19, right?
So right here?
Yeah, that's fine. Sure. Okay. Anne had a great idea putting up her sticky note 19. So if any of the rest of you have additional ideas to add, please put them in the cluster to which they belong. And just make sure they have the right number on them.
The facilitator will try to make sure that statements are grouped together into clusters that share a common theme or subject matter.
Okay, let's just stop for a second and look at what we have. We have about 40 statements, 40 issue statements up right now. You can see what I've been trying to do is get them into clusters that are held together by a common theme or subject matter. The clusters have changed some from the initial statements that we had up, and they're likely to change some more as we add additional statements. But we're moving along here and toward getting a kind of a complete issue dump of all the things that we might need to think about as part of the process of moving towards zero deaths on our roads.
The group will keep adding statements until they have a complete set of statements about issues to be addressed or actions to be taken in order to move towards zero deaths on the highways.
Okay, this will be statement 43, help prevent accidents. Where do you think this might go?
I think it goes by 24, move towards zero deaths.
Okay, good.
The next step will be naming the themes or subject matter that hold a cluster of statements together.
Okay, we now have all the statements out. At least we've agreed we've got all the statements out for now. The next step is to try to label the clusters into which we've put these statements. So where the label captures the subject matter or the theme that holds the statements together. Let me just suggest some possibilities here. One is improve infrastructure. There's a bunch of stuff around that. Or possibly it might actually be improve the driving environment. And another one would appear to be respond effectively to dangerous situations. Do you all see other clusters here that we should probably put a red dot or an orange dot on?
I would put an orange dot on 25, decrease cost to society.
Okay, 25.
Yeah, and then 30, improve vehicle safety.
Okay, 30, improve vehicle safety. Got it. Okay, good. All right. Anybody else?
I've got a couple. I would recommend putting a dot on number 50, decreasing
50,
ambulance response time.
Okay.
And then also on 56, which is over on the side here, still instill good driving ethic in the public culture.
Here. Okay. All right. Anyone else?
And how about 63 and 77?
63
is encourage fewer cars on the road.
Right.
Up in the top right.
Top. Right. Okay.
There you go.
And then 77 is raise risk awareness, which is right in the middle.
Oh yeah, right here. Okay. Good. Is that it? It looks like we've labeled everything. Okay, good. Okay, now we've done a quick review of the cluster labels. Does anybody think we've missed anything out of the list of category labels that we have?
No, actually, I think this is a really good articulation of what we have to deal with.
I agree with Ann. It's looking really good to me.
Well, and frankly, I'm just really impressed at how quickly we came to this listing and arrangement of issues.
Very good. Okay, the next step then is to add links to show what causes what, how these statements are causally connected to one another. Okay?
The group has now reached a major milestone. They have got out all the possible issues or actions they can think of for now that might help move their region towards zero deaths on the highways. After they spend some time discussing the categories to make sure they have labeled them accurately, they will move on to the next step, which is adding links, meaning arrows, that show what leads to what. The facilitator will start by showing what positive links look like, which means if you do X, you are likely to get Y.
Okay, so these statements are not independent of one another. And what we're going to do now is put in links to show what causes what, or what might produce what. So let me show you an example here. So here we have 30, improve vehicle safety. So one of the ways that you might improve vehicle safety is by having mandatory car inspections, which is 20, checking for functioning airbags. Another way to do that would be to provide cars with detection devices like excessive swerving, that would detect excessive swerving or speeding, or another way to do that would be to develop a phone app that prevents text messages while the car is in motion. So the arrows go from these three statements to 30, improve vehicle safety. So the arrow means if you do this, it might result in getting that, or this action leads to that outcome, or this means goes to this end. But notice decrease 12, decreased vehicle wear and tear, actually doesn't help improve vehicle safety, but something else up here. Encourage fewer cars on the road. After helping the group understand positive links, in which if you do X, you're likely to get Y, the facilitator explains negative links, in which if you do X, you're less likely to get Y. Wear and tear. So you see how that works? Yeah. Okay. The links we put in so far are all positive links, meaning if you do something, you're likely to get the thing that's at the end of the arrow. But there's also the possibility of a negative link, which means if you do something, you're likely to get less of what's at the end of the arrow. So, for example, I think if you look at 88 here, increased traffic congestion. If you increase traffic congestion, you're actually likely to increase, not decrease, vehicle wear and tear. So 12 is decreased vehicle wear and tear, but we say if we increase traffic congestion, 88, we actually get less of a decrease. So it actually is a negative arrow.
I think there's possibly another negative link between number 6, increase in local taxes, and number 25, decreased cost to society.
Okay, I'll put a negative link in there.
But doesn't that mess with the time frame? It might be workable in the short run, but in the long run it doesn't work at all.
Well, yeah, I think you're right, Chuck. It could well be. So, but for right now, for the short run, let's keep the negative link in there. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay. Okay. So here's another link, set of links. Remember we disaggregated 17. Remember it said do necessary research to gather baseline data by age, sex, job, and others to identify metrics for success. And we disaggregated that. So into a new 13, do necessary research, which we would do in order to gather baseline data by age, sex, job, and others. And we would also do that in order to identify metrics for success. So it was actually important to disaggregate it so we could get the causal links clearly specified. The group has reached another major milestone. They have put in all the causal links. Now they will take a mid-afternoon break while the facilitator and some volunteers remap the statements based on causal clusters, not thematic clusters, on a fresh mapping surface pre-prepared for this task. The mapping will take about a half hour. Okay, so now we have in all the causal links, and the result is a really messy map. So the next step here is that we're going to take a break and remap. So from thematic clusters, which is what we have here, to causal clusters. And the causal clusters, for one thing, they'll tidy the map up a little bit, but also the causal clusters are more important because they show cause-effect relations, they'll show us how we might act in the world in order to change the world in some important way. But first, I think it's probably important to take pictures of this map just so you all have a record of what you've done so far. So can we have a couple of volunteers who'd be willing to use your smartphones to take photos of this map?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, great. So Mallory and Cynthia, thank you. After the map has been redone based on causal clusters, the group writes over the penciled-in links with marking pens so that they can be more clearly seen. Okay, so now we've reorganized according to causal clusters instead of the thematic clusters that we had before. And you'll notice also there's some messiness to this map, but it's not as messy as the last map where we put in causal links just starting with those thematic or subject matter clusters. This is actually a much more powerful map and much more useful to us because it actually shows where we might intervene in the world in order to make a difference. So we have basically means, ends, chains here that we can make use of to try to alter the world. And ideally, in terms of our task here, ideally can make real headway toward zero deaths on our highways here.
The next step is to analyze the map to understand more clearly what the causal links mean in terms of helping move towards zero deaths on the highways. The first piece of analysis will involve looking for busy concepts, meaning statements that have a lot of arrows coming into and going out of them.
So let's reflect on what we have here, and I'm going to get some blue dots while we do this. We need to do some analysis of this map, and one of the first places to start is to look for really busy concepts. So a busy statement is one that has lots of arrows in and lots of arrows out. So can anybody see some really busy statements here?
Yeah, I think 40 and 75 look pretty central to our views because they have a lot of arrows going in and out.
Okay, so 40's here. Okay, and 75, I see that up here. Are there any others that people see?
What about 56 and still good driving ethics in the public?
This is up here. What else do we have?
Probably 59, which is improve infrastructure. And then I would say 63, which is encourage fewer cars on the road.
And what else? Anything else? Okay, so now we have 5 busy concepts. 59, improve infrastructure. 75, improve driving environment. 63, encourage fewer cars on the road. 40, respond effectively to dangerous situations. And 56, instill good driving ethic in the public culture. Good. Okay, are there any other busy statements people want?
Yeah, so what about number 30, improve vehicle safety?
Okay.
That's got a lot around it.
Well, and I think decrease ambulance response time, that's number 50, kind of lower middle there.
Yeah, okay, got it.
And then probably 77, raise risk awareness.
Okay, raise risk awareness, all right.
I would call out number 8, increase cooperative driving behaviors.
Okay, got it.
And 16, decrease deaths at crash site.
Okay.
That's a good one.
Okay. All right, good. So now we have, what do we have now? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 possible busy concepts with statements. Okay, good. All right. So that's a good place to focus some more conversation, because these are actually possible strategy areas for moving towards zero deaths.
The next step in the analysis is to look for possible goals, which will be found toward the ends of chains of arrows. In other words, they indicate the important purposes towards which a chain of arrows is heading.
Okay, the other thing to notice about this map, in addition to these sort of strategy areas that we've identified, is that some statements have nothing else coming out of them, and those are possible goals, since at the end of a chain of arrows. So here we have moved towards zero deaths, which certainly sounds like a goal given our purpose of being in here. Are there any other statements here that appear to be goals?
So how about 25, decrease cost to society? That's really important as a goal.
Decrease cost to society. Anything else?
I think we need to mark number 80, creating more responsible citizenship behavior, even though it's not at the end of a bunch of arrows.
Okay, but it's very close to the end of a chain of arrows.
It is.
Okay.
And then I also think 61 is a definite goal, lowering the number of deaths and injuries.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, very good. So the idea is if we created more responsible citizen behavior and we lowered the number of deaths and injuries, we actually would be moving towards zero deaths. Okay, and we also think decreasing cost to society is a good thing. All right, good. Okay, so now we've done 2 pieces of analysis here. We've identified really busy concepts that actually make up possible strategy areas. And we've also identified a set of possible or even likely goals. The next piece of the analysis we want to do is...
The next analysis task is to look for loops. A loop is a chain of arrows that loops back on itself. The loop can be positive or negative or controlling.
So here's an example of a loop. Improved driving environment leading to instill good driving ethic in the public culture, leading back to improve the driving environment. So the idea here is if you do either one of these first, improve the driving environment or instill good driving ethic in the public, it'll actually produce the other effect as well. So does that make sense as a loop to you all? Okay, good. Does anybody see any other loops here that we might call out?
Yeah, I think so. Look at 56, instill good driving ethic in the public culture. That seems to lead to 54, decrease road rage, which goes to 55, create more self-responsibility, and that in turn goes to 53, decrease cultural acceptance of bad driving, and then to 8, increase cooperative driving behavior, and then back to 55, creates more responsibility.
Right. And so the actual loop then is this piece right here. 8 to 55 to 53 to 8. Okay. And which, does that make sense to people?
Yeah,
okay.
I agree.
All right.
I like that.
So both of these are actually virtuous loops, meaning they produce something good. Okay, do people see any other loops?
How about 75, improved driving environment? To 21, increase in demand for driving.
Which is where?
To the far left, the
I
first
see.
box.
Okay. Okay. All right.
All right, and that leads to 89, drivers in their cars more often, which has a negative link to 63, encourage fewer cars on the road.
So drivers in their cars more often actually does the opposite of encourage fewer cars on the road. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then that
leads back to 75, improved driving environment.
Okay, right. Okay. All right.
That really makes sense.
I'm also intrigued by the link between 75 and 21, because this doesn't look like it's creating a virtuous loop. It looks like things aren't really improving. 75 to 21.
Yeah, so you improve the driving environment, then you get more people.
Right. So
more people driving. Yeah. So this is actually neither a virtuous loop nor necessarily a vicious loop. It's a controlling loop, so that no matter what you do, you don't actually change things because of this, this link down here. Particularly this link down here. You get the opposite of encouraging fewer cars on the road. So one of the things, if you have a controlling loop, one of the things you have to do is to look for actions outside the loop that might intervene to make a difference. So, for example, what's an example here? Well, you might, if you develop telecommuting policies, that actually would reduce the increase in demand for driving, which would mean you'd have drivers would be less likely to be in their cars more often, which would, wherever we went here, which would, how does that work? Encourage fewer cars on the road, which would improve the driving environment. Another possibility would be 74, apply congestion ordinances that require developers to pay for traffic increases, which would encourage fewer cars on the road, which would improve the driving environment. And what else could we do here? Well, here's another one. Increase sidewalks improves infrastructure, which improves the driving environment, but it also encourages fewer cars on the road, which would improve the driving environment. So there are ways of trying to break into that controlling loop, so that you actually do get something good out of it.
I want to point out that increased sidewalks actually hits two concepts: improve infrastructure and encourage fewer cars on the road.
Yes, that's good. You get a double bonus out of 19 compared to some other option, although 51 is really good, expanding public transportation. And I think 74 is really strong, applying congestion ordinances that require developers to pay for traffic increases. That also does double duty.
The group has already agreed on goals. Now they need to establish priorities among strategy areas. They previously identified 10 possible strategy areas, which is probably too many. The facilitator will help them focus on the most important ones.
Okay, we've already agreed on 4 goals for our Towards Zero Deaths initiative here. We actually have 10 candidate strategy areas here, which is probably too many. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you each of you a sheet of blue dots, and I'm going to ask you to use only 6 dots, no more than 6 dots, and put the 6 dots on what you think the most important 6 strategies areas are out of the 10 possibilities that we have up there.
And we can put them all in one place if we want? Or?
No, I'd like you to spread them around, one dot per strategy.
Okay.
Okay?
The facilitator will now summarize what the group has done and help move toward closure. The workshop is nearing an end.
Okay, let's see what we have now after the dotting exercise. So you all have voted that the top 6 strategy areas are 59, improve infrastructure, 63, encourage fewer cars on the road, 40, respond effectively to dangerous situations, 75, improving the driving environment, 30, improve vehicle safety, and 56, instill good driving ethic in the public culture. Okay, well that's terrific. You've really done a great job here on this strategy map. You've got 4, perfectly defensible goals, and you've got 6 strategy areas that make very good sense in terms of achieving those goals. I think this map will provide just tremendous advice and insight to the working group that's going to put together the proposal from this region to go to the Minnesota Department of Transportation for possible funding around a Towards Zero Death initiative. So I think you ought to give yourselves a round of applause. This is really terrific.
Full closure will involve a number of actions. Participants should agree on what happens next. Each participant should get a photo or photos of the final map, and the group should agree on how the results will be communicated to others. The workshop has taken 4 hours from beginning to end, not counting the preparation time. The result is a well-done strategy map consisting of close to 100 statements linked by arrows. The group has identified their goals, strategies to achieve the goals, and the actions needed to put the strategies into effect. This has been a very efficient and effective use of group time. The process has helped everyone involved say literally, "I see what you're saying." The process has also helped everyone quite literally be on the same page. The group has a good strategic plan for moving forward. In other words, the process has helped the group come up with good ideas worth implementing that can be implemented, and the strong beginnings of a coalition strong enough to put the plan into effect.
The proposal to the Minnesota Department of Transportation for funding this community's Towards Zero Deaths initiative should be easy to write and has a good chance of getting funded because its logic is so clear and the group is united behind it. We hope this instructional video has inspired you to try visual strategy mapping.